All right, ladies and gentlemen, you do have a vocab quiz tomorrow, 21 through 30, last one of the week. You have a test on Thursday, vocab and focus due on Thursday. I will tell you, I made the Iranian test last night, sitting on my couch, and it's easier than I expected. I think AP knows Iran is really hard and didn't ask crazy hard questions, which I do appreciate. There are some really low-level questions, like this is what, and then they give you a bunch of vocab terms, which are pretty straightforward. There are a bunch of charts and graphs on this one, so struggling to get 25 questions on Iran. And then there's a couple primaries on there as well. But I think it's honestly very manageable. Remember, I told you the UK test was hard. Can we agree? And did I tell you the truth? I do think the Iranian test is easier because I think they don't go as hard on Iran on AP. So does that make us feel a little warmer inside? Yeah. Good. I will tell you, I'm in the middle of working on Russia, and my brain hurts. But we will get through it together. We start Russia on Friday. Are we excited? Okay. All right. So yesterday we started talking about Iran and the different components of the political structure. We got all the way to what? The judiciary? Ooh, okay. So Sunni versus Shiite. So let's make sure we understand a couple things, because I'm not going to lie, I was blown away by how little 6th period knew about Islam. Let's talk about the fundamental components of Islam, shall we? I'd write that down. Or maybe on the side. Fundamental components of Islam. What is the term for God in Islam? Sophia? Allah. Allah is Arabic for Islam. Now, if you don't know this, you should write it down. If you do know this, I wouldn't write it down. But there are expectations. There is someone behind you, Brennan. How many times do we have to talk about? Why don't you sit up correctly in your chair all the way, and then you won't be in her business because it's not fair to her. She deserves her space. Yes? So sit up correctly. Okay. Allah is Arabic for God. Who is the prophet of Islam? Who is the prophet? Jake. Muhammad is the prophet. What is the holy book, Emerson? The Quran. There is 2 spellings for it, and you need to know both. K-O-R-A-N. Or Quran as in Q-U-R-A-N. There are 2 spellings. You need to know the holy city is what, Ethan? Where's the center of Islam? What do we got? Jack. Mecca. Write down Mecca. What modern day country is Mecca located in? Desmond?
I want to say
No. Pakistan's over by India because it's a part of it.
Israel.
Dude, you're like, no. I mean, it's in like context. It's in the Middle East, but no. What is it for? It's in Saudi Arabia. If you don't know that, write it down. It's in Saudi Arabia, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. Allah, Quran. Now, the Quran is known as the direct word of God. Why? Alex?
Because do they think he wrote the book?
He did not write the book. He did not know how to write. Sophia? It was dictated by Muhammad. How is it different than the Bible? I just taught this to you a couple, 4 months ago.
The Bible is directly written by...
No, there's no directly at all. Okay, Desmond?
The Bible is written before and after.
No. Okay, the Bible is written about 10 to 15 years after the event itself. No one is writing it down in real time. The Quran is dictated from Muhammad to, a scribe who actually wrote it down. So, from the word of Muhammad to a page. That's how it is. The Bible is a collection of stories that were thrown together and smashed together about 10, 15 years after the events. Okay? So, the Quran is known as the direct word of God because it comes out of Muhammad's mouth and the scribe writes it down. That is not. Did Jesus go around saying, hey, record me, this is going to be good? No, that's not what he did. Okay? Did Jesus want to start a religion? No, Jesus did not want to start a religion. He was a proud Jew who died a Jew. He's Jewish. Start and Jewish. However, it is going to be Paul of Tarsus who converts, who creates this idea of Christianity, and this is where we start having pieces together of the new story. Okay? There are 5 pillars of Islam. What is one of them, David? 5 pillars of Islam. Can you give me one? Have we heard of it before? In my last class, I had a ton of kids who've never heard of it before. Like, what are the 5 pillars? Like, you know how we have the 10 commandments in Christianity? You didn't know that? Okay. Sophia? You can name one.
Faith.
Faith, which means what?
Well, it means like having faith and practicing charity.
No. It means there's one true God, Allah. Ford. Hajj, which means what? Yes, pilgrimage to Mecca. Anyone got a third? Caesar. Charity or almsgiving is the specific term, but absolutely, charity must give donations to charity. Jimmy? Fasting during Ramadan, which is their high holiday. And what do you got, Britt?
I think it's like pray.
How many times a day?
Is it 5?
It is 5. There's 5 pillars of Islam, 5 prayers a day. Okay, 5 prayers a day. Fasting during Ramadan, which is their high holiday. Almsgiving, which you must give to charity. There's only one true God. And, Mecca. Pilgrimage to Mecca. Okay. There are 2 major sects. I've covered this 1,000 times. If we don't know this by now, I cannot help you. And Lucas, what are they? Shiite. Because, if you say it that way, it sounds like you're British calling it shit, yes? Shiites. Okay? Not shit. Shiites. Okay. Now, in Mecca. Mecca is the holy center. We talked about this. What is the major religious focus in Mecca? If you're an AP Art History run, is going to be pissed. You don't know this. You will know what it's called. The gold doors are on the Sophia. No, mosque can be anywhere. It's special.
Or I don't know what it's called.
Yeah, what is it called?
The
The Kaaba. Yeah, the Kaaba is the holy center of Islam. It's located in the Great Mosque in Mecca. Mosque is like church. There are churches everywhere. There are mosques everywhere. But the Great Mosque is in Mecca, and it is the home to the Kaaba, which is the gold box structure. Because someone said the box thing to me earlier. It's not what we call it. It is the home. It's a religious center for millions and millions of people. We just don't cavalierly call it the box thing. Grant.
How do you spell Kaaba?
Kaaba. Okay. All right. And we all knew that?
Most of it. Yeah.
Okay, good. Would we all agree to that? Okay. From the look on your faces, I'm going to say no, but we're going to pretend that's a yes. Okay. So, Sunni and Shiites are different sects. They have differing opinions about what position in Islam. Caliph. Okay, the caliph, which is going to be, for our sake and purpose, the leader of religion. Perfect. Okay. We understand this is the foundational complaint in Islam, yes? Okay. In Christianity, just to give you a comparison, okay, Christianity is going to be one thing for about 350 years, and then it fractures with the iconoclasm. Then it fractures into the Great Schism. Okay? 300 years, everyone's on the same page. Islam fractures within 15 years. Okay? So, it's a huge deal, and it is absolutely fundamental to the shaping of modern day Islam. All right, here we go. Do we have executive branch? That's what our next heading is. Let's go. Okay, for your executive branch, you need to know at the top of the executive branch you have the supreme leader. You need to know that they are appointed by what group, Selena? No, they're not chosen by the Guardian Council, but pretty much everyone else is, though. So, what do we got? David, who selects the supreme leader? He comes out of what body? It is on my PowerPoint. It's not a trick. I also taught this to you yesterday. Help me out, Annie. No, that's the Parliament. Jake. The Assembly of Experts. It is also on my thing because I'm not trying to trick you. I'm just trying to hold you accountable, yes? The Assembly of Experts is where the Supreme Leader is pulled from, okay? You need to know that they are the state leader. They're the head of state. You need to know that they are a cleric, which means they are religious. You also need to know there are 0 checks against them. So once you become named Supreme Leader, you are in power for ever. Forever and ever and ever. Or until you die. Okay. Your second position in the executive branch is president. The president is voted directly by the people after what group decides who's allowed to be on the ballot? Sydney, who gets to decide who's on the ballot in Iran? No, that's for your Iranian.
Supreme leader.
No. What is it, Lucas?
The Guardian.
It's the Guardian Council gets to select. Every name that gets on a ballot in Iran has to go through the Guardian Council. Okay? So the Guardian Council gets to pick who goes on the ballot and then the people vote. It's a 2-phase voting system or a 2-ballot system. The first ballot, if no one gets majority, it goes to a second ballot with the top 2 votes. Okay? So typically, you'll get one person, Mr. Clark, who gets 47%. You'll get a second candidate gets 33%, and then you get a third candidate who gets the rest. If no one has 50%, then they go to a second ballot. Okay? You need to know that the president deals with state issues. Okay? Foreign diplomacy. Why? Riley, why does the president have to deal with foreign diplomacy? We talked about this the other day. Help him out, Ethan.
Is it because the Supreme Leader doesn't want to?
Oh no, he would love to. Ford,
Supreme leader can't leave.
he can't leave the country. And a lot of negotiations and trades and treaties and interactions come from people who have to leave the country. Like Biden leaves the country every once in a while to go on these big tours and introduces and interacts with world leaders, all those types of things, okay? The Supreme Leader can't leave the country because both of them are wanted for high crimes against civilians. Okay? They're also a threat of assassination as well. Okay. Legislative branch is your next subheading. In your legislative branch, you need to know, it is unicameral. Unicameral means what, Alice? It has one one body, okay? In the United States, we are what? We are what, Nick? Bicameral, which means 2. Now, I'm telling you, I don't know why it's called a bicameral, because it doesn't feel bicameral. And as you know, I'm learning this with you. I don't know why it's called a bicameral, because it's actually inside the unicameral. It's divided into 2 sections. So why don't they just call it bicameral? I don't know. This has been the point of contingency all day. So, you need to know Iran is considered unicameral, but inside it there are 2 sections. The Guardian Council and the Mage. Okay? Now, the Majels is your law-creating body. They're like the House of Representatives here in the United States. I'd write that down. Okay? The Mages are like the House of Representatives. They're the ones doing and passing the laws. They're the ones who are balancing the budget, for instance, is another component of it. There's 290 seats. Then you have the Guardian Council. The Guardian Council has 12 members. The Guardian Council has to approve of everything the Majors do. Write it down. So, they kind of set up like the House of, like, Congress. Can we agree? Because the House of Representatives can pass a law, but if it doesn't get approved by the Senate, then it dies. But they only vote once, which is why it's called unicameral, which is pretty sure that was the explanation I got. Brian, you better pick that head up. Okay, now, big thing that you need to know about the Guardian Council, it is supposed to be completely supported by Sharia law. Their job is to ensure everything lines up to Sharia law. And what is Sharia law, Mr. Clark?
Islamic law.
Okay, and who created Sharia law? It's a person, and how many names have I taught you about Islam?
Only a few.
Exactly, so who is the one name I've taught you so far in Islam?
Can't remember his name.
Dude. You gotta know his name. It's like Jesus. Everyone kind of knows it.
Muhammad?
Yes. You gotta know Muhammad, ladies and gentlemen. We have to know Muhammad. Okay, so you don't need to write this down. Okay, let me give you a quick little history of Islam. Okay, God speaks to Muhammad and says, I am the real true God. Honor me. Muhammad's like, yes, I'll honor you. And then God starts talking to Muhammad. He tells Muhammad that he needs to take the city of Mecca and turn it into a Islamic hub. Okay? Previous to Islam, and this is going to be important for our social cleavages here in a few minutes, is prior to Islam, Persia, which is where Iran is, was into Zoroastrianism, which is polytheistic. It has two gods. Zoroastrianism is what Mecca was based on. So Muhammad was told by God to take Mecca and turn it into an Islamic center. So he had to go and fight them and all that stuff. Muhammad gets his butt kicked the first time he tries to take Mecca and goes out into the desert in what we call Ummah. Ummah is how to live in God's vision. In the Ummah, they create Sharia law. When they come back to Mecca the second time, about 7 years later, they win in a very decisive victory. And that's how Mecca today is Islamic.
So what was it before?
It was Zoroastrianism, which is the religion of Xerxes. Have you ever seen 500? Okay, dude. 300. I'm sorry, 300. Have you seen that movie? Xerxes, the gold guy? He is a Persian. Zoroastrianism is his faith. Okay, that's why he's all piercings and cool shit. Okay. Expediency Council, they are. Okay? So Sharia law is coming from Muhammad itself. Okay? That is the big thing you need to pull from that. Muhammad created it for his people. Is it used all everywhere? No, it's only used in a few places. Anyone know where else uses Sharia law? Ethan.
Is it Afghanistan?
Afghanistan and Iran are the two major places that uses it on a large scale. What two places are rejected by pretty much every other Islamic country? Iran and Afghanistan, because of how intense the Sharia law is. Other countries have like changes and abbreviations, but they go to the most. Okay. So, in your legislative branch, you have the Mage and the Guardian Council, which is in one body. However, they fight all the time. You need to know that the Mage is the democracy of Iran, while the Guardian Council is the Sharia law component. So, do you think Sharia law and democracy get along really well? No, they don't. And that is where the Expediency Council comes in. Write it down. The Expediency Council is balancing democracy versus Sharia law. Expediency Council is constantly balancing democracy and Sharia law. There is a balancing of democracy, even though it's an authoritarian state. Why do they humor the idea of democracy, Alex?
Because they have a theocracy.
But why do they humor democracy? Why
What
do
does that
they?
mean, humor?
Humor means like, why do they pretend it's like a thing?
For
Like-
legitimacy?
But what, you are correct about the legitimacy. How does that give legitimacy to Iran?
Makes the people think that
There you
they
go.
have a
Keep going.
democracy.
Yes. It makes people think that they have more say in their government than they actually do. So if the parliament loses every single time it does something to the guardian council, what will eventually happen? Everyone will rebel because it's obviously a clear sham. So the expediency council has to wait. Is this good enough that we can let democracy win a little bit? Or do we need to crush this because this will cause further problems? They're weighing the whole system. So if the expediency gets it wrong too many times, what happens? Everything blows up. Okay? If it allows democracy to win too many times, what's going to happen? It's going to blow up in the other way. Okay? So, this is super important. Alright. So, for the mage, you need to know there are 290 positions. For the guardian council, you need to know there are only 12 positions. Okay, half of them are picked by the supreme leader, half of them are picked by the judiciary. What do you got, Jimmy? You good? Okay. Your expediency council, you need to know that there are 32 members in the expediency council. Now, inside the expediency council, it's not just a bunch of randos. It is the speaker of the mage, it is the chief judge, it is members of the guardian council. So these are the who of Iran who are literally sitting together and trying to decide, do we allow democracy to win, or should we give it back to Sharia law in order to kind of figure it out? Okay? It is the who's who, and you will see the Anatola is sitting at the head of the table, and they are the ones who decide whether to allow the democratic movement or to reject it. That's how heavy these aspects are. Okay. Then you have your assembly of religious experts. Just a friendly reminder. This is what your flow chart looks like. So, you have your legislative branch here with Parliament and the Guardian Council. This is your executive with the supreme leader over here. Your assembly of experts is a little outside. It's not directly under one. If you had to put it somewhere, it's outside the three branches of government. Write it down. The assembly of experts are outside the three branches of government because they are there to help assist the supreme leader. Okay? This is considered the most prestigious position in Iran. Now, which aspect of the Iranian government is the tool of the supreme leader? Which one is the tool doing the bidding? Which one does the bidding? Caesar.
I don't like anything.
Out of all of your aspects of the government, Caesar, on your little flow chart, which one does the bidding of the supreme leader? Guardian Council does it, okay? Which one does the bidding of the people? Which one works on behalf of the people? Desmond. Parliament, okay? Which one actually is weighing out the decisions of the government and future impact, Emerson? Expediency Council. The Assembly of Experts is the one that's looking at the long-term path of Iran. Write it down. The Assembly of Experts is all about the long-term plan for Iran. A couple things. And this one kind of surprised me. Even though it's called the Assembly of Religious Experts, it's mostly all lawyers. It's all lawyers. Why don't they just call it like Assembly of Legal Experts? theocracy, but like, seriously, let's like call it what it is. Okay, you need to know the Assembly of Religious Experts is actually filled with a bunch of jurists. Jurists are lawyers or judges, people who follow the law. You need to know, ladies and gentlemen, that they are from this body. They will then select the next supreme leader. What do you got, Ethan?
Are they also clerics?
They are also clerics, and that's where the religious kind of component comes. So someone's asked me, why would you be a religious person and a lawyer? If you were raised in a theological society where they appreciate understanding of religion, and you wanted to be successful in that country, you would also study religion and something else, yes? If you wanted to work for the government. In Rome, like in Italy, the third most popular major in Italy is Christianity. Because if you want to work for the Vatican State, what do you have to be really good at? Catholicism, Christianity, and knowing that. So if you wanted to be a lawyer in Vatican City, you would have to go both law and religion. Same thing's happening in any theological state. They have to study the religion and the government. Okay. You need to know in your assembly of experts, it's 86 people voted every 8 years. David.
I'm confused.
Why?
What's the difference of assembly experts and religious?
Well, they're the same thing. You're talking about the same thing.
Oh,
Yeah, they're the same thing. Assembly of Religious Experts, I think, should be called something different because they're mostly lawyers.
Assembly of experts and assembly of religious experts.
They're the same thing. They just shorthanded it. What do you got, Caitlin?
Who selects them?
Who selects them? The people vote for them, actually. They're put into power by the people, but they have to be approved by the Guardian Council. So the Guardian Council has to approve them, but they are actually voted for by the people. So they have 8 years. So if you were put to the Assembly of Religious Experts, you hope that during your 8 years, who dies? Yeah, because then one of you get to be the leader. So you're hoping that you're like, yeah. But he hasn't died yet. So here we go. What do you got, Emily?
How do they decide who's going to take the position?
It's seniority. It's just like, someone was like, well, how do they know who's going to pick? Because we already have predictions. U.S. government thinks they already know who's going to be the next person. Okay? Our Pope, if you're Catholic, is in a wheelchair, and he looks really fragile of late, not looking good. So what's probably going to happen to our man, Benedict? He's okay. I was a big fan of the Pope, and now, not as big a fan, but that's okay. When he dies, they all get locked in a room. Yes? Hello? They all get locked in a room, and then at the end of the day, they send up a puff of smoke. And it depends on what color the smoke is, dictates if they have a pope or not, yes. If it's black smoke, there's no pope. If there's white smoke, we have a pope. If it's red smoke, I think, I don't know. It's colored smoke, it hasn't happened in a while. With that being said, everyone kind of predicts the next pope because the power leads to the top, yes? Hello? The next ascension, it's pretty predictable. They typically know the first. Anatola knew who his successor was going to be, so he kind of led him in his last few years of life. They'll know which the next successor is as they go kind of through it. There you go. Now they meet twice every 6 months. Okay, so they meet 4 times a year. I don't know why I would say that, but here we are. Okay, the judicial branch, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. Now, you need to know that Iran is based on a constitution. So, what is the antithesis of a constitution? I taught this to you last week. What is the opposite of a constitution, Jordan? Oh, Jordan, don't do this to me, Jordan. I taught it to you last week, and you people did not enjoy it. Goodness. Did you hear it, Jordan? My heart just broke. Brennan!
Common law.
Common law. There you go, which is based on precedents. Well, a constitution, everything is written down. Okay? So, you need to know that Iran's constitution makes the judiciary an independent power. Okay? It It's supposed to be an independent power, but are used to persecute opposition figures. What does that tell us? What does that tell us, Riley? What does it mean when the courts are commonly used to persecute opposition figures? It's supposed to be an independent body, but it's commonly used to prosecute oppositional figures.
Oh, it's pretty
Yes, absolutely. So if you challenge who, then you get called in front of the judiciary. I use it villain. So is it used as a political weapon? Who is wielding this political weapon? There you go. Make sure you have that down. It is a political weapon of the supreme leader. Okay, so a couple things you do need to know. Who picks the Chief Justice? Yeah, the Supreme Leader picks the Chief Justice, and that justice opens a government in their name. Okay, so what do you got?
So, do the people of Iran not know this?
No, they do know it, but there's not much they can do.
So,
So-
you said that they don't rebel or do
Keep in mind, they consistently are in some sort of rebellion. They're currently in open rebellion, yes, when it comes to protests and stuff like that. You have to understand that there is no government that works beautifully, even here in the United States. Can we agree? There are gaping issues here in the United States in 2023 that have to be addressed. And maybe Joe will address it tonight in his State of the Union address.
That's tonight.
Oh yeah, it's tonight, it starts at 8. Okay, so the State of the Union address is tonight. Maybe Joe will start addressing some of those issues. People of Iran are struggling with the fact that their government is an authoritarian government, but having a government is better than no government. So keep that in mind. Russia is also an authoritarian government. Would they rather be in Russia than another country? But would they rather be in a country than in complete chaos? Yes, so there's pros and cons to everything. Someone was like, well, why don't they just like burn the place down? That's not ideal. Would you want to raise your family in anarchy in a country that has no power? No. Okay. You need to know they do rule by law. What is the American slogan? Rule of law. Rule of law means everyone is treated equal in front of the law. Rule by law means what? You're not equal. However, you're all held to the same law. Rule by law is everyone is held to the same laws. But it does show that there's a difference between each person. Are women treated equally as men? No, absolutely not. Which is why it's not rule of law. Okay, it's rule by law. Whatever the law is, everyone is held accountable. As long as it's in the books, everyone is held accountable, and that's an important distinction. Okay, you need to know Sharia law is what the law code is based on. You need to know that the head of the judiciary or the chief justice is appointed by the supreme leader. Okay, and the Supreme Court is really not used often. That is a unique component to Iran. Write it down. The Supreme Court is not used often because Sharia law stops issues very quickly.
So like it doesn't allow for protests like.
Yeah, it doesn't. Sharia law, it's very, if this happens, this is the outcome, and there's no challenge to it because it's from Muhammad.
Like how we have Supreme Court cases.
No, we have a lot of Supreme Court cases.
Yeah, that's
There's
what
thousands of them constantly going, and they're picking the ones they're actually going to debate. Here in the United States, we have lots of Supreme Court action. In Iran, they have very little because Sharia law is so strict. You do need to know in the judiciary, they have a thing called revolutionary court. Grant, write it down. Put a big box around it. This is incredibly unique. The revolutionary court deals with national security trials or rebellions against the state. Okay? Those are the ones. So, if you were going to get called in front of a court, which one would you want it not to be?
The
You don't want the Revolutionary Court. They executed 4 people in the last like month and a half. Like public execution, like in a square with thousands of people watching, like in medieval times.
Like,
I don't know how they did it. I think they shot him. I think they tied him to a pole and shot him. I don't know. That's not the YouTube videos I watch. I don't know if they're on YouTube, but like my husband watches like that stuff. Like anytime you can watch like those weird things.
Watches like messed up stuff.
There's an audience, I guess, for it. Like people watch him. I don't think he's watched these ones, but he has seen some of the weirder ones. All right. So the Revolutionary Courts are the ones where people are being challenged for rebelling. So if you don't wear a hijab in Iran because you're protesting the government, where are you going to stand trial? Revolutionary Court. That is really important. The morality police is enforced by the Revolutionary. Make a note of that because Iran has a morality police. They're making sure the laws of the land are being fulfilled.
So do they have like a different morality police, not the same as like, do they have like 2 sets of police?
Yeah, they have multiple polices because the morality police have to make sure all these women have their hair covered, right? And that God forbid, what they talk to someone who's not someone they're married to or related to. Yeah.
so if execute not right.
No, you're gonna get arrested. Haven't you heard about the Iranian protest? Haven't we talked about it?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, if you're not wearing a hijab in Iran, it's a full-on act of rebellion, and they estimate in Iran 500 to 700 people have been killed in the last 4 months. That's how many, kind of confirmed to. So do you think it's more or less? It's more. Okay. Now, you should also be keeping Turkey in your thoughts today. Have we heard there's over 6,000 people were killed in the earthquake the other day? Yeah, it's over 6,100 already, and they're estimating by tomorrow it could be close to 8,000. Yeah, it's an absolute insanity. If you see the debris, like whole buildings are just kind of complete collapsing. So keep them in your thoughts. Keep in mind it's not just Turkey, it's also Syria, who has been war torn in a civil war for decades, and like things are insane.
Girls doctor was shot or shot with a man, 8 women